Hello, my peaceful and profitable entrepreneurs. Happy Wednesday. Happy summer. I think I'm like 1 minute late. Long story short, a friend texted me last night. She needed help picking up her son from camp. So I picked up Marie, picked up her friend's kid, brought them back here. Hopefully got them settled. But they're doing a little play date now. So they've been friends since they were like 18 months. So now they're 6. So it's kind of wild. So we've got that going on. The kids, the dog in the background. So we'll go ahead and jump into this today because I don't know how long I'm going to get. I'm really excited to talk about this. And if you join live or catch the replay, please leave your questions, leave your comments. I want this to be really supportive to you. And as a thank you, I always want to pick a winner and give away a masterclass that I did months ago about how I pay myself 10K months. I've been doing this for a while now. It feels really good. And so this is a masterclass, not about like, here's a plug and play formula for you, but it's about like how I think of things, questions you can use in your own business to really create these results. Because part of the reason I want to have this conversation today is it is so important to me. And I just saw this in a Facebook group the other day. So this like is fresh in my mind. They posted that they needed support with like website and social media stuff. And there was just this feeding frenzy of comments. And I know that she was overwhelmed with comments and the DMs that she got. I think she ended up going with like the first person that she had a call with. And I am so against these like strategy in a box type of things. I think it is total BS. I think that there is no secret formula, secret email, secret DM that if you could just buy and get your hands on, it's just going to like blow up your business. Like that is such BS. I am a firm believer that every business is different. We get to do things your way. And every audience is different. Every, offer that you have, the way you do something is different than someone else. So I am so dedicated to providing like hands-on, like one-to-one tactical stuff. This is why for my free call, like no one walks away with this just like template that I give everyone, like my free consistent content for consistent 5-figure months, like everyone walks away with something that is for them and their business. So feels really important to say that in this conversation because what I'm telling you today is not like, oh, you need to go set up a 401k right now. Oh, you need to do what I did. You need to replicate my journey. Like that is not it at all. I want to talk about maxing out my 401k just to give you some inspiration, give you a new perspective, give you some things to think about in your business. The way I think about things might be different than you. So this is just to kind of open the door for this conversation. Because another thing that I see a lot is people really promoting revenue numbers. And I talk about revenue numbers and I like to share those as well. And to me, it's more important to like have the profitability there. That's why I called the group Peaceful and Profitable, because I would rather you have less revenue and have more, higher profit margins than like make $100,000 a year and not take home any of that. I've talked to business owners recently who made like 30 to 60K of revenue in their first year of business and literally didn't take home any of it. So that is not what I'm here for. I'm here to support people to take home money. And so that is kind of this like mindset piece. I always go through my framework, mindset, strategy, organize, implement. So we're starting with the mindset piece. People talking about these huge launches that they have and these big revenue numbers, but they don't have the like take home pay or the savings to go with it. And I know talking about savings is not something that gets done a lot in the online space because it's not that sexy. We all want to hear the big revenue wins and the big revenue numbers, but literally I am here to like really focus on the right things, which is take home pay and making sure you have savings. Like I work with all of my clients to make sure they have tax savings and anything else. We work with their CPA, their CFP to really make sure that they are saving in a way that works for them. So that's something I want to bring to this conversation, bring to you today. And I'm not an expert. I rely on my tax preparer. I rely on my CFP to really guide me with this stuff. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the expert. I could tell you my journey and what's worked for me. But please, seek out like expert advice for your exact situation. So 401k, that's $22,500 that I've maxed out. I've contributed that as of tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 15th, which is my payday. So officially tomorrow I've maxed that out. So that is just really exciting and something I want to celebrate and bring to you as a win, because so often people will talk about these big revenue numbers, but like I've never seen anyone online share like, yay, I maxed out my 401k. Like, I've literally never seen that. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation today, because I think it is such a huge accomplishment. So that's kind of the mindset piece, and really asking yourself, like, what do you want your money to do for you? I think that is a question that we really need to lean into as we're building our business, and not just like, okay, I've got these revenue and this is what I'm, cash that's coming in, but like literally, like, what am I paying myself, and what do I want my revenue or my, pay to do for me? I'm going into my 8th year of business, which is crazy, but my journey has been like 1 to 3 kids at home. And then for the past 2 years, we had 3 kids in private schools. So that was $3,500 a month. So that's more than our mortgage. And then I have like $7,000 a month of team spend. So right out of the gate, before I even save or pay myself, I've got, $7,000 plus the $3,500 that like has to be paid every month. So that's $10,500 before I do anything. So for me, it was really important to just decide that like I'm going all in on investing in myself. So we're going to talk about the strategy piece of this. So in the past, when I graduated from college, the first thing I did was start a Roth. I was so excited. I started a Roth IRA, and I've kind of been contributing to that for like 20 years now. And then when I worked for employers, I had a 401k, so I contributed to those. When I left those jobs, I think those converted into traditional IRAs. And then in most recent years, I've been contributing to my Roth kind of on the side. As I was, paying for school and all this other stuff, there'd be little bits and pieces. I don't remember the exact number for the Roth. It was a little over $6,000 a year, I think was the cap, $6,200 or $6,800. I don't remember the exact number, but I maxed that out for a few years. And then the past couple years got to the point where we reached like income limits, so I couldn't max it out. So $6,000 plus a year, like that's not that much to contribute to savings. But again, it was part of my journey. I was proud of that, and that served me at the time. But then when it got to be where I was like, okay, I can really like put some money to savings, but I can't even do the, max Roth. Like, what am I going to do? So last fall is when I talked to my, tax preparer. It was the right choice, right time for me to do an S Corp, which I never thought I would do. I just always wanted to do owner draws forever and ever. I had a really good system with those, and I was very like twice a month on these dates, this percentage of the cash we bring in goes to these different accounts. So it was very organized. It wasn't like I was just moving cash all around when I wanted to. So switching to an S Corp and paying myself a salary wasn't that big of a lift. It was a lot of paperwork that I had to do. Setting up the 401k was a whole thing. Setting myself up with payroll. All of that was just stuff that had to be done at the end of the year and the beginning of the year. Like, it's not like I would like had spare time sitting around to do all of this. So that was kind of like the first hurdle to get over. And then just deciding that I was like, I'm going to max this thing out. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm deciding, I think about this in terms of like, there's never a right time to do anything. I hear this a lot with people, like, it's not the right time to like get support, or, is an objection to work with me. Like, it's just not the right time for me right now. And it's just so sad to me, because I'm like, when is going to be the right time? Like, there's never just like a right time. Like, even my like mom prayer book today, the quote was something about like, if you waited for like the exact right sun and weather and conditions, like you would never plant anything and you would never harvest anything, because there's never just a right time. And so that just like spoke to my heart, because that was what I really dove into with this 401k, is that like, there's never going to be a right time for me to just be like, here's an extra $22,500. I'm just going to put there and just, not do anything with it. Like, sure, like that just doesn't happen. So I really set the intention at the beginning of the year, like, what do I want my money to do for me? Like, I'm paying for team, I'm paying, for the kids' schools, which starting in the fall, 2 of them are going to be in public schools. Yay. But I really was just like, this is the year I'm going all in. Like, my 401k, what is that number? I'm going to max that out. So that was just something I decided on. And so I really invite you to like think about, what are you deciding on? I know we've got people kind of jumping on, so be sure to ask your questions, leave your comments. But really think about deciding, what do you want your money to do for you? There is never a right time for anything. So, like just decide, set that intention. And I feel like some of the stuff I'm always talking about on these live streams are like, just set the intention, you know, like doing that is like half of the work, because then you find ways to make it happen. And so the other kind of strategy piece of that is treating your business as a business, not as an ATM. So as the bookkeeper for a lot of businesses, I see that a lot. Like business owners will use their business as an ATM, and I'm always like, stop, no, like don't do that. And they're like, it's just hard to figure out what to pay themselves when they're using it as an ATM, because they don't have like a clear idea of what's coming in and what's coming out. Like their cash is just kind of all muddled together. Whereas if they really set like hard draws, like, okay, 10th and the 25th, I'm drawing this percentage every month. That's really how I think about it. So make sure that you are coming to your business as a neutral standpoint. It's not your ATM. Yes, we want it to make us money, but we have to think of ourselves as like the CEO. Like if you think of a big business, like, I don't know, I'm looking at like something from Staples. So, you know, the CEO of Staples doesn't walk in and he's like, hey, I want a new boat next month, or I want, you know, to send my kids to private school, or I want to max out my 401k. Like they don't walk in, he or she, whoever, they don't walk in and they're like, this is what I want next month, so let's make that happen. How do we get more cash? Like it's literally more of a neutral standpoint of like, this is a long-term game of business. Like, yes, I want this to provide for me financially now and down the road, but it's not like, let me scramble right now and figure out how to like get the most cash right now because this is what I want to buy. So think about it from that lens. Like, yes, it needs to support your life. Like this is business. We need to make money. We have things to pay for. We want to pay for. Like that's why we do this. Like we love what we do, but we also need to get paid. And you know, I want my clients to be like highly compensated for what they do. At the same time, it's just this neutral, like, okay, how can I look at this from a CEO and not just be like, hey, I'm a person that needs cash and I'm going to draw it out from the business. So really get neutral, get support, you know, get CPAs, your tax preparer, CFP, whatever that looks like, and have them on board to really do this with you. So that's like the strategy piece I want to talk to. The organized piece. If y'all have questions, I know I can see people who jumped in and off, but you don't have to say hi or anything, but please let me know your questions. And I know we always get like at least 30 replays on these, so please let me know questions along the way. The organized piece, like literally what that looks like. So I have payroll set up with Gusto, and then my CFP that I've had for years is over here with Charles Schwab. So basically they didn't talk. I could have done a 401k through Gusto. It's not through Gusto, but it's through one of their affiliates. And it would have kind of like talked more if I had done that. It was the beginning of the year. I was super busy and I was just like, you know what? I just want my CFP to set one up. Just do that for me. Instead of like getting quotes from all these companies and then having to like really start from scratch for that. So that was easier on the front end, but it makes the back end and every month a little bit trickier because they're not talking. So when I run my payroll in Gusto, there's nothing like pulling to Charles Schwab for that money to go. So what that looks like is a check that I write, a hand check. I've got it here on my desk to take after my payroll runs tomorrow. And I have to deliver it to a Charles Schwab location, which there's one right in Mount Pleasant, right near, you know, whatever road where I go to Whole Foods, right down the road from that. So I can drop that off. So that's kind of another reason for like front loading this so much, because I don't want to do that like constantly through the year. So I've just been doing like these big transfers. So this month it looks like, you know, contributing $5,000 to my 401k, $2,500 is employer side, $2,500 is employee side. So that's like kind of what that looks like. So for me, in order to get that big of a chunk, because I pay myself really well, and I didn't know this until I started running this, because we don't do this with our bookkeeping clients. We're not in their payroll like this. But when I, you know, pay myself, that $2,500 comes out of what goes into my bank account, which until I ran my payroll, that just wasn't something I thought about. And then I looked at what was deposited in the bank and I was like, oh, rats. So I had to like run another payroll to actually like give myself money into my personal checking account. because it decreases it by like that 2,500 that I did. Whereas if you did, 500 a month, it would just decrease it by a little bit. So I had to run extra payrolls to actually get money into my checking account. What's the other piece of that that's weird? Oh, so I save for taxes every month. It's like 30%, I think, of cash received. So I have a tax savings account that I don't touch every month. I transfer that money to that tax savings account. At the end of the year, I didn't need all of it. We were pretty much saving kind of aggressively last year. And there's just no way to know, like as a business owner whose revenue fluctuates, like it's so hard to just predict. So I was like, I'd rather CYA. And so that's what I did. So it was nice this year. I had a cushion. So I was like, oh, I can take some of that money and load it into my 401k because it's still in the business. It's just in a tax savings account. So I would transfer like 10 grand at a time from my tax savings account to my business operating account. That's where my payroll is paid out of. So I had that money sitting there to just easily flush into the 401k. So let me know if that's tracking, because I know it's just, for me, that's what worked. So if you're sitting there and you're like, literally, how do I transfer this much every month? You could look at like, okay, do I have like a cushion over here that I didn't need? Which I still have like a profit account where I save and just don't touch that. But I felt comfortable with the tax money, like, okay, I didn't use that last year. I'm still saving this year. So I still transferred money this month into my tax account for whatever percentage, whatever amount that, 30% of whatever cash I collected, like that went in. And then I was still transferring like a big chunk out from my 401k. So I just wanted those to be like totally separate. Like I'm still saving through the year exactly as I would, but I'm pulling last year's overflow and I'm putting it into my 401k. So that was the right decision for me. I've got, 3 daughters. They each have a 529 and a Fidelity account. I have other kind of brokerage accounts. So now that the 401k is like funded and done, it's just kind of nice brain space for me to just be like, okay, the rest of the year I'm focusing on my daughter's accounts and my other brokerage account. I could set those up on autopilot, but again, I like to contribute more when cash is higher. So we do kind of have these baseline conservative amounts going in, but I like to just like, okay, this month, was a big month, or I had, some overflow, or I've just dedicated this amount because I know that my revenue is this reoccurring every month and my expenses are this. So it feels important to me to like kind of do that manually so I can just like keep my eye on it a little bit better rather than like set it and forget it. That's personally what I like. Again, none of this is anything that you have to do. This is just the way I do it, and what I've kind of learned over time. And again, like there's no right step. I mean, so many like business people out there will tell you that there is like this perfect 7-step process that you need to do. You need to pay off credit card debt, and then, save for a house, and then do this, like, and I get what they're saying. And at the same time, like, we're humans, we're not robots. So I really work with my clients to figure out like what's the best next step for them. So if a client with a lot of credit card debt, not that much, but it makes him really uncomfortable and he feels like a lot of anxiety around it. So I recently did a client case study about this. Like, it's an inside job creating peace within ourselves, because we can never really have peace. We can't control everything out in the world. So it's very important to create peace in ourselves. And then thinking about like literally what can we do strategically to create peace. So we kind of talked about, some gurus will be like, you need to pay off the credit card with the highest interest rate. While other people say you need to pay off the credit card with the lowest balance, because your brain gets a small win when you've paid off that card and it feels really good and it sees like a quick, quick win. What's the word? I don't know. I'm blanking on the word, but you know what I mean? It's like, they're like, okay, long term, it probably is better to pay off that high interest credit card. But like as a human, it might feel better and give our brain motivation and that positive feedback loop that we need to keep paying down the credit card with the lowest balance, because we can pay that off quickly and it just feels really good. And we feel like, oh yes, check that off the list, instead of like the high interest one that takes like years to pay off and we just like give up because we feel like we're never going to pay it off. So that's something that's important to talk about, is like there's really no like perfect next step. Another example I heard years ago was about like coffee. Like and I like rarely buy coffee. I like having coffee at home, but I used to work for a doctor that bought coffee every day. And there is that whole notion of like, instead of buying coffee every day, you could just take that $5 and put it into a savings account, and in however many years you'd have millions of dollars or whatever, the saying goes. And I get it, the compound interest and all of that. But even if someone is like, you know what, that coffee every day just really freaking makes my day. It just makes me happy. I just love my coffee. I love going in and seeing the environment. I love interacting with them. Like that $5 a day for my coffee just makes my day. And it's kind of like, I see the balance of, yes, maybe save like a couple days of coffee, maybe not coffee every day. But just thinking about like, I'm a human, and like, I don't just like robotically go through life and make the best decisions based on a calculation and a spreadsheet. So really think about that when you're, this is the organized piece. Like, look at, what are you wanting to go all in on? What are you deciding that you want your money to do? And then figuring out like, okay, that might be different than what, I don't even know the money gurus out there. There's some big names, but like that might go against whatever so-and-so says, or, they say to do this first, but I actually feel like I kind of want to do this, and that would be better for me in my life. Obviously getting support with professionals who know what they're talking about, but just get clear on your life and your goals so that like when you're doing all this, it feels fun, it feels playful, it doesn't feel like such a grind. It was really exciting and fun for me to save that $22,500, or $22,500. Like, it was just really fun. Like, I loved transferring like 10 grand from my, tax savings to my operating. I was just like, holy shit, like this is great, and then like seeing that come through my payroll, and then like dropping it off at the Charles Schwab office. And I look like, a homeless person when I go in, and I'm like, bam, here's a $5,000 check. Like, it's just really fun to like have that and be proud of it. And now it's just like, yes, check that off the list. The rest of the year I can contribute to these other things. So make it fun and make it feel good, so that it's not just like a robot arbitrarily doing something that someone said you're supposed to do and you check it off the list. Like, make it work for you, make it support your life. Like, this gets to be fun. That's why we have businesses, to support our lives, to really use your money in a way that supports you. So the last piece is the implement this. So kind of talked about this before, but that kind of looked like me being paid less, like literally into my personal checking account, and so had to go and run another payroll. It kind of looked like, as we go through the rest of the year, I'm still going to be like aggressively putting money aside every month. It's just going to look a little bit different. I actually need to talk to like my CFP and my accountant, like, what else can I contribute to other than like my brokerage account? Is there any other, tax goodie for me to get, or whatever I can do? Because that is not my wheelhouse. I cannot keep up with everything. That's what we pay them for. So really like leaning into getting that support for me. And then also just knowing that what I'm doing is what works for me. Maybe it looks like you setting up a Roth. Maybe it looks like a traditional IRA. Maybe it looks like, your kids are doing work for you, so you pay them through their 529 plan. Like, look at different ways that like serve you. My kids, I would love to have them work for me in my business. They're just not old enough to actually do something in my business that's considered work. I have some clients that use their kids in their marketing, and so they are on photo shoots for like hours at a time, and so they can pay their kids for that. And so it's like, okay, on my end, all I know is to say, document it. Like, literally write down the date, what they did, how many hours, like document the shit out of that. And then like go ask your CFP, your tax preparer, like literally on the back end, how does that look? But just, think about like what that looks like for you. I know there's all kinds of like tax loopholes that I'm just like, the biggest tax loophole is having your bookkeeping current. So there are things out there. So make sure you get educated or ask someone about it. But really lean into letting them do that for you and like supporting with that. We have another client who runs their car through their business. And so at the end of the year, the tax preparer was like, if you need a new car, now's the time to do it. Like, get that kind of write-off thing, which we will talk about that next week. We've got one of my colleagues, Nikki, she is a CFP. She will be here talking to us more about investment kind of stuff and how like you don't necessarily get a dollar for dollar deduction if you buy a new car for your business. Like, it will deduct, and lower your taxes a little bit, but it's not just like you bought a $30,000 car, so you decrease your taxes by $30,000. So that's something to keep in mind too, because I always tell my clients, like, would you buy this anyway? If you weren't getting a tax deduction, if you weren't getting a goodie for it, like literally, is this something you would buy anyway? And if not, don't do it for the tax deduction, because it's only going to be like 30-50% of the cost of what you got. And again, I'm not a tax preparer. That could be a totally different percent. That was the last thing that I heard, from a preparer recently. She commented on one of my posts and I was like, oh yes, thank you. Maybe I'll have her come on at some point, but it's just a fun thing to think about. Like, would you buy that thing anyway, instead of really like going for the tax goodie, legitimately doing it. So, all of this to say, this is not something you have to do, but again, I just really want to bring this to y'all to think about, the conversation of not just chasing those revenue goals, like really chasing what you want your money to do for you, how you want to use it, being profitable. This is something I work with all my clients on. We are basically full for the summer. So if you're interested, I do not help with the tax support or the CFP stuff, but I can help you get your business more profitable. And that is usually through creating more revenue. We get to a certain point with expenses where we cannot go lower without sacrificing quality and service. And so the lever to press in is revenue. So that's why I have these free consistent content for consistent 5-figure months goals, because that is huge. Creating content, getting out there, being visible, selling your services, providing value for free to people so that when you make your offer, they're like, hell yeah, like she gave me so much value just for free. Like, what is it like in a paid container? So really, that's why I offer these calls, because I want you to have the lever to press to, get more revenue. These are free. I actually don't have capacity to like take on more clients right now. So we'll probably open some spots in the fall. And these calls are closing for July because I am leaving. I will be gone. All these live streams will be replays in July. So if you want a free call, go ahead and grab it. We've got, like 2 weeks, I think, open for those. And then they are closed until August. So just want to make sure you get that support sooner than later, because the results that you have in the fall, the clients that you have in the fall are all a result from what you're doing now, selling this summer, showing up, being visible. So I want you to have a plan. I want you to have clients like rolling in later and still enjoy your summer. So I'll drop the link below. Again, join us next week. Nikki will be here at CFP. So be sure to join the conversation, get your questions answered. And I so appreciate y'all who catch this live and on the replay. I love being here and I love doing these. So thank you so much. It means so much to me. And have a great rest of your week. I'm going to go check on the kids. Hopefully they are not destroying the house somewhere, because they're like strangely quiet. So wish me luck. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.